Hello, what is up, everybody? My name is Mario Pichardo. Welcome to another show. Today we have quite a few things to go through, so let's just jump right into it. Um, just before we start, just so that you guys know, YouTube is doing a lot of censoring of people for political reasons, it would seem. So if you um, if you like the video, if you like the content, share it. If you think that this content, that this show is good enough that other people should hear it, then please share it, because that is according to how YouTube is doing things now with their discrimination against people who cover the news. It's very hard to reach people organically. So any amount of help that you guys are willing to submit to help us kind of spread our message would be greatly appreciated. So with that, let's jump straight into it. Here we have a video that came out of the American Mirror. Or at least that's where I'm seeing it. It was posted on Twitter by someone named Charlotte Guthbertson. Probably mispronounced that. So anyway, so she posted a video here, and she's saying just watch two groups of Africans from Congo and Angola cross illegally into Mexico from Guatemala across the Suchiate River on two rafts, 8 men, 4 women, 6 kids. Now, the interesting thing here about the video is they're covering the fact that, listen, these illegal immigrants are coming, and they're coming in droves, and they're coming from every which direction. There were rumors that came out that in the respective countries, there are rumors going around. There are advertisements on radios telling people, "Hey, go to America, go to America. There are jobs for you there. There's all different kinds of benefits if you can make your way there." That it's this kind of like great place to be, where if you can get there, they'll just take care of you, or you'll find a good job. The quality standard of living is so much higher in America than it is anywhere else. You gotta go there, you gotta go there, you gotta go there. Yet what's happening is that when a lot of people get to America, what they find is that, okay, well, it's not as prosperous as we thought that it was. There's not work for a lot of these illegal immigrants. Then there is in some places, but we have to look at the political motivation behind pushing people to become migrants to America and to other countries as well. We have the influx of people into Europe, and that's created a lot of problems. If you haven't already seen it, I definitely recommend Lauren Southern's documentary Borderless, where she goes through and she kind of breaks down what is happening, why it's happening, and she covers the idea of immigrants, these illegal immigrants from different countries coming into Europe, from both sides. So she's very fair. It's very neutral. Now, when she first released said documentary, YouTube saw fit to actually remove her video in such a way that most people, if no one was able to see it, and because of how the YouTube algorithms work, if you don't see the video within the first hour or so, as far as I understand it, then the likelihood of your video getting a lot of traction through the algorithm becomes a lot less. So in other words, you have to get picked up early. And if you're not, that is the consequence. You don't get a lot of traction. So there's no doubt about it that there's a lot of polarization around the issue of immigration. Should we have immigrants coming to the United States? Yes. Should we have people come to the United States against United States law? Should we have immigrants coming to the United States with laws that were meant to protect the people who live there and protect the futures of not just American children, but, immigrant families who came here legally through the system. I think that the issue that a lot of, people on the left want to make, where they say, we think America is a country of immigrants, so we shouldn't kick anybody out. We shouldn't keep anybody out. America is a place where everyone has an opportunity to chase the American dream, so on and so forth, which is all well and good. Of course, we're a country of immigrants. Of course, we want more people to have the opportunities that we've had. We just don't want people coming into America looking for opportunity to have to at the expense of people who already live here, take their jobs, lower their wages, so on and so forth. We want to integrate people in such a way where America can maintain its culture in the same way that a lot of countries in Europe have started to really lose what made them their respective countries as a result of mass illegal immigration into these places. So seeing what's going on at the border, seeing what's going on abroad is very kind of concerning, because I think that a lot of people on the left don't recognize the fact that letting all these people into this country all at once has deep social and economic ramifications that I don't think they care about, because I don't think they know. First off, you can't care about something you don't even know it exists. But I think that they don't see they look at it more as in more from a moral point of view, which is all well and good, because we all want other people to do well. We don't want to be the only people who succeed. But I think the thing that's missing is, well, what's a way to do that without harming what already exists, what is already there? And the solution that we'd come up with is, okay, we're going to go through a legal immigration process. In other words, you still have your morality. People can still come into America. People can still become and chase their own American dream or American vision. However, so that we don't harm the people that already live within the United States, we're going to implement a system where people can have background checks depending on where they're from, or not because we are racist towards that country, their respective home country, regardless of what it is, but rather because we want to make sure that the people that would come into America can add value to America, are not going to harm Americans, take away jobs from Americans, so on and so forth. Because, I think from a governmental point of view, we have to look at what the role of government is. The government was made to be the body that is for the people, for the American people. Its primary goal is to make sure that it protects its people. It gives them a system as to which they can have impact in terms of laws that are created at all levels. But the government is really there to represent the people. And so, but particularly for the people and for the people's interest. I think there's a strong argument to be made that allowing illegal immigration to go on unfluttered, in other words, have something akin to an open border, which is what's being called for, is going to destroy America's culture as a country that values certain things. Now, each group within America, each culture within America, each family within America, each race within America may have different cultures, different values compared to the overall American ideal or American idea. However, that it has there are ramifications if we just bring people into America who, like in El Salvador, for example, women are heavily looked down upon. You can beat a woman and it's okay there. Well, in America, we don't really we value women in a different way. Um, I dare say we have a better culture than El Salvador when it comes to valuing women in America. We take a lot better care of our women in America. Um, and we don't beat them. We don't cut off, slash at them with machetes, um, because we don't have that same kind of machismo um, ideal. And so that's just, as an example, a bit extreme, but still covers the case. We have beliefs in America, ideals in America that we need to follow, that we need to integrate people into. And if they don't know our history, if they don't know how we came into being, how we got to where we are, then America for these people kind of becomes a blank slate of this place is just, I can just do whatever I want kind of place. There's real value to the history of America, of Americans. And I hope that we don't miss that that's not lost. So, when you see someone talking about illegal immigration, that we need to let everybody into our country, that, you're not racist for thinking that we need to protect our border. If you think that we need to protect our border, you're trying to take care of your fellow American. You're trying to take care of your fellow man because you want the people that grew up in the same land as you did, in the same neighborhood, in the same town, to have an opportunity to be successful, to have something, to be somebody. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to really separate the rhetoric that's coming from the left that has overwhelming power in social media, in movies, in TV, in music, in news, and really separate that from the reality, which is a lot of Americans are turning against this kind of belief, against this kind of narrative, and for good reason. People are rejecting this. They're saying, no, we need to take care of our own people first. And I'd hope that more people on the left would kind of start to realize that just because you don't want an open border, because you want to protect Americans and American values and American ideals, doesn't mean that you're a bigot. It doesn't mean that you're racist. It doesn't mean that you're X, Y, or Z, so on and so forth, because they love to call names, love personal attacks. So there's a couple other things I wanted to go through. The Supreme Court, according to Reuters, this was published on the 27th, published today. Reuters reports that the U.S. Supreme Court blocks Trump's census citizenship question for now. This is something I thought was very interesting. So essentially, for those of you who aren't aware, President Trump came out and said we should have a question on the census that asks people living wherever they are if they are legal immigrants, or if anybody's in their home that is not a legal immigrant. And Democrats went up in arms and they went crazy about it. And they said, no, you cannot do that. That is wrong. It's bad. Well, the issue went to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled in a 5-4 decision. I thought it was very, very interesting. It turns out that, because when you have a 5-4 ruling, that's very telling that there was a case to be made for either side. And it really came down to just a matter of numbers. I think that when you have any justice group, judges, system that rules heavily in favor of one side or another, that kind of gives you a better indicator as to the health of a nation, the health of a society, the health of a group. But when you have a lot of rulings that are like 5-4, 6-3, then it's kind of like, well, clearly there's a kind of there's some argument to be made here for either side. Now, um, Chief Justice Roberts clearly here thought that the best thing to do here would be to not ask the question of the census. I think it's interesting because I think you can make a case of, that you're prying too deeply into American, um, into the lives of Americans. But then again, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're not an American. So it's an interesting question to add to a census. Do I think that we should? I really could see both sides of it. Yeah, you should because, um, hey, if you have illegal immigrants, I mean, that's something that even if we're not going to go after you for it because it's you admitted it on the census, um, it's a way for us to count how many illegal immigrants are here, and in different ways, classify how much we're paying for people who are illegal immigrants. How many people live with you? Are you on welfare? What's your income? We can kind of track and see where these illegal immigrants are in mass and things like that. Um, so I mean, you can see it either way. I mean, you don't know if they're going to use it for, you know, down the line saying this is a heavily populated area. Let's put police here. Let's put ICE here to get to capture more illegal immigrants or whatever. But the fact of the matter of this ruling is kind of, in my opinion, um, indicative of the state of America in terms of the divide, right? That there's a heavy divide. Now, it's just one ruling, so you don't want to make that judgment based on one ruling, but it's also not surprising in a landscape where we have in America that is very kind of split into what it believes, what it wants, what it desires. We have everybody in the big cities saying, no, 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 we cannot have more illegal immigration. We cannot have more people on one side of the aisle saying something because we don't agree with it, like with Facebook, with Pinterest, with YouTube, just deciding to take people off their platform because they disagree. So if we go on here, so Chief Justice Roberts sides with the liberal Supreme Court justices and says you cannot do this. Says the court ruled against the challengers on other claims. With the 9 justices splitting in different ways, the court ruled on a separate 5-4 vote with the conservative justices in the majority that the U.S. Constitution does not, in theory, prevent the administration from adding a citizenship question. Opponents have said the question would instill fear in immigrant households that the information would be shared with law enforcement, deterring them from taking part. It goes on to say, the census required by the U.S. Constitution is used to allot seats to the U.S. House of Representatives and distribute some $800 billion in federal funds. The intent of the citizenship question, opponents said, is to manufacture deliberate undercount of areas with high immigrant and Latino populations, costing Democrat-leading regions seats in the House, benefits Republicans and non-Hispanic whites. It says, administration argued that adding a question required people taking part in the census to declare whether they are a citizen, was needed to better enforce a voting rights law, a rationale that opponent called a pretext for a political move. So it goes on to kind of break it down and and just goes a little bit more into detail. There's a lot there to unpack. On one side they're saying it's just a political move. They're trying to defeat the Democrats, keep seats from the Democrats, reduce the power of the Democrats, and that's why they want to ask the question. On the other side, it's saying, well, we have to enforce our voting rights laws. We have to enforce a lot of our laws. We have to make sure that we're not cheating Americans by having elections swayed by illegal immigrants, so on and so forth. Now, notice that when the Democrats say you can't do it because it's going to reduce our power, well, in saying that, you're kind of really admitting that these illegal immigrants have so much influence on elections. And that is scary. It absolutely is. And it's scary because, look, if you're an illegal immigrant, I get it. If I was live in your life situation, I probably would have done the same. I probably would have tried to have done the same, right? Come to America, come to a country, first world country with a lot of opportunity, where I could have become or done whatever or virtually almost anything that I would have wanted to have done. Sounds like a great deal, absolutely. However, that is not the situation that I'm in. And although I can sympathize with, people who are illegal immigrants, people who are, who are in need, who do need help, at the same time, you have to say what is best for the people in my country, what is best for Americans, and maybe asking the question on the census: should we be allowing illegal immigrants, to vote in our elections? I think the clear answer is no. It's deeply wrong. It is fundamentally wrong because America is a country for Americans. America is a country founded on the ideal that we would put that we would fight for the freedoms and the liberties of American citizens. That if you came to this country legally, that you would have the opportunity to chase whatever goal or dream that you had. And the prosperity of America has come out of that ideal or that vision, or that the opportunities born by that ideal and that vision. Now, Democrats will now say that, well, that also brought a lot of racism, a lot of slavery, a lot of pain and suffering by people of color, by disenfranchised groups. Then yes, while that is true, I think America at the same time has also fared much better in comparison to other countries. Where the standard of living in America is first world. Yes, America has a terrible history of racism, of slavery, of really being a part of some pretty atrocious and non-human things. That shouldn't stop us from valuing American values. It shouldn't stop us from looking at all of the great things that America has done in spite of the evil, bad things that it's done. America is a country where a woman can really grow up and do a lot. It's very progressive for women. It is very progressive for blacks and Hispanics and and so on and so forth. According to President Trump, economically, African Americans are doing better than they ever have in America. And you better believe Latinos are starting businesses at I believe the last statistic I read, 3 times what they used to. So there's a lot of opportunity in America for Americans, but that opportunity comes out of us giving more economic opportunity to Americans. Yes, people who came to America, but came to America legally, and so there's I think it's important that we represent that side of it. America's history is not all negative. There is a lot to be gained from this country, and we shouldn't try to get all the eggs out of the golden goose at the expense of the golden goose's life. You can say if you have a golden goose, but you can only take out, let's say, an egg a month, and someone comes to you and says, oh, well, that's not fair. Everyone should be able to have an egg. Well, what happens if you try to get all the eggs out of the goose at once? The egg can only produce one egg at a time. And so we're going to have to, deal with that or risk losing everything. So, no, I don't think that, because you want to take care of the goose and just take one egg at a time, that doesn't make you racist. It doesn't make you a bigot. It makes you sensible. It really does. And so while these people who are throwing all these ideas out there have a lot of power in the media, I mean a ton, just an inordinate amount of power, they don't control you, and they don't control your mind. So let's not let them, get into your consciousness and feed you those thoughts, feed you those ideas, because they're just not true. So that was the ruling for President Trump. Unfortunately, the census question got shot down. It would have been a great opportunity to question people who are in the houses, but I honestly do respect the opposing opinion because, you know what? Because it's about illegal immigration, you really shouldn't have. I mean, on a level of representation in office, illegal immigrants really should not be voting in American elections. One of your rights as an American citizen is to be able to vote. And I think that there is a firm argument to be made. I think a winning argument to be made to say that as an American citizen, if another person who is illegal votes in an election, in a democratic election, well, it's all of a sudden not democratic. And I say that because if I vote Republican as an American citizen, and someone down the street who's an illegal immigrant votes Democrat, well, he just canceled out my vote. And he doesn't pay taxes. He doesn't, he doesn't participate in any other functions of American life. And, in terms of our governmental duties, like jury duty, we follow these American laws, we pay income tax, so on and so forth. And so why are we going to just let that happen? We're creating an environment where some laws can just be broken. It doesn't matter. And I think it's very clear that the reason that Democrats want all of these illegal immigrants in the country, and they're not trying to do anything about it, is because that they know that their base in the next few years is going to be their potential powers is going to be swayed by illegal immigrants voting. And so that's something to really pay attention to. We should never let our power to influence our government be curtailed for any reason. If we lose the democratic part, the republic part of America, then what makes us any different from a monarchy, a oligarchy, a technocratic, some kind of rule like that? And so we need to be very vigilant. An American or any government doesn't stand unless its citizens volunteer and they sacrifice and they make real sacrifices, because listen, there's going to be days where you have to vote. There's going to be days where you have to talk to people about what would potentially be the best system. Your school board, your local elections, your congressional elections, your Senate races at the local and state and federal levels. And, and those are real conversations as citizens that we're meant to have, that we're entitled to have, where we speak to each other and we say, well, this is what I think. Well, this is what I think. And you guys kind of have an exchange of ideas, a public discourse. Now, the rulers of technology platforms like Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth don't want you to have those discussions, but it's our right. One of our rights is to be able to have it and to talk about it. It's very important to the political process. So let's not just give that away. All right. Now let's move on. Let's go to the next story that I have here. This one comes out of CNBC. It says Twitter to flag abusive tweets by world's leaders to move that could impact Trump. Now, this is interesting, specifically because these companies who claim not to have a political bias, well, when we look at their terms of service, right? When we look at their rules or their community guidelines, so on and so forth, they contain rulings or policies along the lines of, you can't misgender somebody, you can't say utter hate speech and stuff like that, which is clearly things that conservatives don't agree with. And because they don't agree with that, with those ideals, they are by definition bias. I mean, they're just bias ideals. So, I think these companies, whether it be Twitter or Facebook or whatever, while they're trying to protect their respective parties, whether they're trying to, really be moral or get people to adhere to moral standards, I think that they're doing that at the expense of really having a platform that allows people to speak freely. And I think that when you do that, when you try to do something like that, you say you can't post this because this is this, you can't post this because this is this, I think a lot of people are going to turn around and see that and say, hey, I was just talking to my friend about this. It was a joke. Why am I being censored off this platform? Why are some of these people that I like being taken off? And people are really going to start to resent these social media companies. And I think it's clear why it's happening now. Listen, there's an election coming up, right? There's an election for the presidency. Social media companies do not want conservatism to blow up any more than it needs to. They want to curtail it as much as possible. Project Veritas caught President Trump, caught Google executive talking about President Trump. There was a whistleblower also from inside of Google coming out saying, yes, Google is biased. Yes, they use doublespeak with their words, where they dog whistle to their own base, where they're trying to say things that we wouldn't agree with, and so they have to mask it with other words. But these companies are biased, and these companies are doing things that are clearly anti-democratic. They're clearly trying to sway elections in real terms. And so when you see that kind of push, I think the only real response is to look at Twitter and look at Facebook, and I think this is what people are doing, and I think they're getting upset. Now, not everyone is political, but even people who don't follow politics at all are finding themselves being impacted and thrown into the political discourse, because that's how kind of all-encompassing this culture war has become, where there are people on the left who believe that if you don't agree that you can't misgender someone, that you can't detain people at the border, so on and so forth, then and that if you do any of those things, that you're inherently an evil person. And then you have people on the right who are kind of trying to say, no, we need to have borders to protect Americans and American rights. And scientifically, there are only two genders. There's not a third. I'm sorry. I don't feel that I should be legally inclined to call you something if I disagree with you. So on and so forth. So we have this kind of difference in belief and this difference in terms of rhetoric. And what we're starting to see is a lot of companies that exist in this kind of ultra liberal Silicon Valley, San Francisco. They're kind of, I think they all live in their own bubbles, and then like one big bubble, one big liberal bubble. And so they kind of are gigantic echo chambers who have gotten to a point where they're trying to push their own ideology to the rest of their base, or not just their base, the whole world. And people who are not political are starting to get hit on because of that, because either people they follow or things they try to post are getting blocked or banned. And they're kind of starting to get fed up, and they're kind of starting to say, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but it's making me mad. I don't understand why this is being taken out, this post or this photo or this whatever is being taken down. It was just a joke. And I think that what this ultra liberal leftist doesn't understand is, they're getting hit with the Streisand effect when they block news stories that counter their narrative. I think that people who are now experiencing a lot of the censorship are realizing that, hey, the left, while I may agree with some of your policies, on some issues you're really fringe left, and I'm not okay with that. I believe in freedom of speech because that originally was a liberal ideal. It really was. But that has kind of been taken away because the kind of conversation has shifted, and it's shifted in the other direction towards something completely different, where it is authoritarian, it is fascistic. You can't say certain things. You're not allowed to do certain things. You get punished for doing certain things. So Twitter, to get back to the story, is going to apparently flag tweets by world leaders. Look, we can already tell based on Twitter's history. Twitter has a very very clear history of discriminating against conservatives, against people who don't hold liberal ideologies, left-wing ideologies. That much is plain to see. And what we're starting to see now is the fact that because that's happening, people don't look at Twitter as an unbiased source. So it's not surprising that Twitter would come out and say, "Hey, President Trump is saying this, and this is not true," or "President Trump is doing this, and this is not this." And I think it actually lends more credence to what Donald Trump says all the time, which is that there is a bias. A lot of the media is fake news because they publish stories that are blatantly false for the purpose of making someone or trying to smear somebody. And now here Twitter comes, trying to put messages or trying to write some kind of disclaimer. In other words, trying to discredit people who disagree with their guidelines. So what happens if out of this, let's say there's a not safe for work flag or something like that goes up? Well, what happens when all of these conservatives kind of end up getting flagged, or even just President Trump getting flagged as, not safe for work? Well, then what does that mean? Clearly, Twitter does not approve of the speech of the president, and therefore neither should you, because it's by default flagged as something that is potentially controversial, something that's potentially bad or dangerous or sketchy. And so very quickly you're starting to see these social media companies that were meant to be or that have become things of a public square have really started to turn into authoritarian leftist platforms. Unfortunately, they have the protection of being platforms. I think that you could easily make the case that they're acting as publishers, but that's the status that they have. Congress has not made a move yet to fight the censorship, but it's still here. This latest move by Twitter should surprise no one who's been following this story for a while. They're continuing to go. They're continuing the censorship. They're continuing to do what they've done for a while, for what they've done for quite a while now. So this is just the latest. We'll keep you guys posted as things go on. With that, I have one more story here. We'll go through it quickly. Then let's just jump right into it. So a Japanese company released a social credit scoring system that allows people to buy certain products at lower prices, at discounted prices, if your behavior, as tracked by an AI, is favorable to the scoring system. If it's not, you kind of pay whatever the regular price is. You don't get the discount. And the issue here is obviously, because when you think about China, for example, China has this social credit system where actual Chinese residents, people who live in China, are given a rating based off of things that they do that the government likes, and things that they do that the government thinks is not good. Like, let's say in China, you play a lot of video games. China does not like that. So if China sees you doing that, China's going to turn around and say, oh, no. This is not good, lower credit score. But it's not just that. Also in China, if you associate, if a Chinese camera, let's say, for example, catches you speaking to an individual who has a low credit score, social credit score, that actually impacts your social credit score. And so somebody with a low credit score who may not be able to travel, who may not get discounts at certain stores, who may not be able to use public transportation, who may not even be able to get a job in China, that person now also has is also dangerous to you, because if you're caught talking to them, you're caught texting them or calling them, well now you can face an issue of not being able to get on a plane. You might not be able to work for certain businesses or certain governments. You may not be able to access certain activities at a certain hour. And so China's created a system where you either do what we tell you to do, or you're going to pay a penalty for it. It's very Orwellian. And George Orwell's 1984, for anybody who doesn't know, is about a dystopian future in where the government controls almost every facet of everyone's life. You're always monitored. You're always being watched. The police are always right around the corner. If you so much as have the wrong expression on your face at the wrong time, you can get questioned about that. You can get asked about that. You can go to jail for doing certain very small and seemingly insignificant acts. And so Fast Company comes out with this report that Line, which is, I'm assuming, is the Japanese company, just went Orwellian on Japanese users with its social credit scoring system. So this is very similar to China in terms of the fact that you're being rated and you're getting benefits based off of your behavior. So for Line users, this is really what they're starting to see, and I think that it's interesting because this time it's a company that's attempting the system, not a government, which in some ways is pretty ominous, isn't it? The fact that you have a company deciding that kind of thing. Well, AI is very interesting because it tracks a user's behavior. It can track a user's behavior and learn from a user's behavior, and to kind of be able to, because of that, predict the next step that you're going to take, the next move that you're going to take. It can notice associations between things. It can notice patterns or data points that we would never even be able to realize. Like maybe when we eat cereal in the morning, that means we have a high 80% likelihood to eat a hot dog over a hamburger, or they'll notice things like that, and be able to pick up on them, things you wouldn't even really think, or like, what, like, oh, I never realized that, and so this system becomes something where, well, what if this goes out into more areas? What if now the government picks it up, or other corporations pick it up? when you look at a bank in America, for example, Chase Bank closed Tommy Robinson's bank accounts, presumably because a reporter had called them and it said, hey, we know that you support white supremacy. Can you give us a statement of why? And Chase Bank goes, no, we don't support that. Who told you that? We don't do that. And then the reporter says, no, you do, because you host Tommy Robinson's accounts and he's a known white supremacist, whatever. And then the company gets scared and the company will say, okay, we got to take this person's account down. We got to take this person's information down, because otherwise we're going to we could face bad PR. We could face bad public relations. And so that's something that happened here in America, as to where someone's actions were not seen as nice. And so action was taken against the individual. Well, who's to stop companies like Chase, like Twitter, like Facebook, and I'm sure Facebook actually already does this according to leaked internal documents. But who's to stop other companies now from looking at this same system and saying, hey, if we want good PR, then we should implement this system in the back end and as a ghost system to flag certain users, to shadow ban them, or to just be mindful that they exist, to monitor our targets in case they get out of hand. You see, it quickly becomes a system where people's individual rights, their individual privacies, are violated. A lot of people, listen, we don't want the government knowing all this stuff about us, and this is precisely why. People want their privacy because they don't want governments, but now also apparently corporations, using that information against them. That is the whole reason why people want privacy. It's the whole reason why, there's like a deep human desire to have your own corner, to be able to do your own thing. But when we have governments and organizations that overstep their boundaries because they're incentivized to, let's be honest, they would have higher profits if they're able to predict what people would do, if they're able to, find the viewers that buy certain things, and then they can make them buy more because they can give them better deals. So there is incentive, but if we don't fight back and we don't say no through our legislatures, through our Congresses, which in large cases have been filled with lobbyists, filled with special interests, filled with people who are kind of out of touch with the people, as opposed to actual, people who are there and who are, who are, selfless and who are there to really serve. This is what happens. We get kind of corporations who get out of control. We get governments who become either corrupt or just completely inept. And so that, I think, is what we're really starting to see here. And I think that the result of it is unfortunate, but seeing this come out of Japan shocked me because, I want to visit Japan. I want to go to Japan one day. I want to go to Japan and know that there's not going to be a social credit system. But I have a special place in my heart for Japan. I like anime. I like that whole, the Japanese games, the Japanese media. I think it's amazing. And so, it's like, it makes me sad to see that a country that I admire is having to deal with these kinds of Orwellian things. And it also surprises me because, this is something that is straight out of a communist society. There's a reason why why millions upon millions upon millions of people died in communist societies. And so I hope that, we can look back at this stuff and say that was really silly. We should not have done this. I hope it doesn't turn into anything where the government starts to implement this system abroad. I would hate for Japan to have to go through this. I would hate for any country to have to deal with the social credit system. So, be it as it may, this is what is currently being implemented. If I was a Japanese citizen, I would not use this service. and I would try to get better protections as a citizen of Japan. Um, that's what I would say about that. Um, anyway, guys, that's everything that we have here today. Again, if you guys like the content, if you guys like the video, please share it. It is very difficult now um, for us to get really organic views, organic traction, because of the algorithm changes that YouTube has made that are pushing people down, particularly people who have right leaning ideals or right leaning uh, uh, ideas to share, because they don't want that out. They don't want it out in election season. They don't want it out at all. They're trying to, as an inside executive at Google had said, they're trying to uh, prevent another Trump situation. So, with that, guys, thank you for watching. I've been doing well. I've been having a good time of it. I've started to get back on top of my own personal life. I've had to teach myself discipline, teach myself to really stay on top of the things that I need to do to get these videos out to you guys, to work on some other projects that I'm working on, to for all these different kinds of things. So, it's a blessing to be able to be here and serve you guys. I've been thinking, how can I add more and more value? How can I create better and better stuff for people, whether it be in this format or it's politics or in another way. So I'm exploring all of that right now. And you guys will see that, and you guys will see that in the channel as it changes or grows or whatever, comes next. But again, thank you guys for being here. If you like the video, if you like the content, please share it. If you don't like it, if you don't think it's worthy of being shared, you don't have to. It's a free market. Let the market speak. The market thinks you're good. The market will share. And if the market likes your pizza, the market will tell other people about your pizzeria. If the market doesn't like your pizza, you need to make better pizza, because they're not going to talk about it. So, that's how I see it. Very similar to Tim Pool. And so with that, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Everybody take it easy. Have a great day or night whenever you're watching this or listening to it on podcast services. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.